So today I get to hang out with Jodie Williams, Olympian sprinter and coffee enthusiast. We'll be starting our day off at Soup Bohemian. We'll get to explore a piece of Jodie's world at one of her favorite shops. I expect that we'll be connecting, bonding, while searching for some little hidden treasures as we shop. And then we get to go to Jodie's place. I'm really looking forward to giving her the coffee blend that I made for her. I also want to talk about how she's managed to find her place in the world and within coffee specifically as well.
Tell me about the space. This is one of my favorite spaces in Atlanta. It feels like a home away from home. Kind of how we've sat on the homebody. I like to be inside. And this feels, when I step into this store, like it feels like a home away from home. It feels comfortable. It feels like my own space. It's welcoming, calming.
Yeah. The aroma was very calming.
It is, yeah.
Potent and calming.
Right. I feel like they've curated every facet of it, like scent, feel, sight.
Yeah.
Like all your senses are hit here.
Yeah.
It's like a hug.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's nice. Shall we shop?
We should.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like mini perfume oils.
Okay.
I have like an obsession with mini things.
Yeah.
Something mini things are just, it's ridiculous. Looking at this.
Cute.
With some big boots.
See, I wouldn't have known like what to put.
I definitely put some chunky, like I'd make this chunky.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like big, something heavy.
Okay.
And then like something big over the top.
Okay. Yeah,
know?
I'd feel more comfortable with something
I
big over it.
can't not wear something big over the top. It's impossible for me. Oh.
Almost at it.
Like this.
Yeah, I was going for that next.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what we just looked at?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's the same
Cute.
knit. This is so cute.
Ooh, I like this color pant. I think, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna walk. That is,
I would put this over the top of that dress and then wear some big chunky boots, and that would be like a full.
see, you think that was easy to put together.
Oh, it's so easy. It's right next to each other.
Yeah, I guess.
I think because I have like clothes rules. Like,
I need rules, that's right.
right, oh my gosh. Like if it's a masculine bottom, I'll put like a feminine top.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like if it's baggy on the bottom, I'll go tight on the top.
Okay.
But if it's short, then I need something,
Yeah.
because there's skin. So I need something that's going to protect like the upper part of me.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just want baggy on baggy, but like I
feel
can't
that
figure out how to
too.
make that work.
Baggy on baggy is a little difficult, but you can always make it work.
Okay.
Like that mannequin in there with the
Oh, yeah.
big drapes. I think when it's baggy on baggy, you have to like layer to bring like
Okay.
make it dynamic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. You. Yes.
Oh, these are cute. The mini one, of course.
No one needs a big ass.
Yes.
Like, okay, when I'm shopping, I'll like order something online. I see the model online like wear this shirt like tucked in the front or something, out back, and then I'll try to do the same. And then like if Mike is around watching me try to do it, he's like, why is it tucked just in the front? Does he mean to do that? I'm like, I failed. I didn't do it right.
You know what? Not everything's gonna be for everyone.
Yeah.
Sometimes I put clothes on and my boyfriend looks at me and he's like,
Why?
what are we doing today? And I'm like, listen, you just just because you don't understand the vision doesn't mean the vision's wrong.
Okay.
This one's for me. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I like that.
Everybody's gonna love everything.
This is true.
Yeah. This is like the perfect little coffee cup.
My Grandpa Dean, that's what this smells like.
No, that's a nice. I like tobacco smell in candles.
Really?
Tobacco always smells good.
I'm surprised I'm really drawn to the gunpowder. I don't know what gunpowder smells like.
Not a fan.
It's like, I can tell it's good quality stuff, but
Love me a
no,
tobacco smell.
this one really outshines it for me.
I think you'll like it a lot.
Okay, that's good to know.
It's like
I'm gonna do that.
bonfire. You guys don't have bonfire night, huh? In the UK, we have something called bonfire night.
Really?
It's in November. It was some guy tried to blow up our parliament, so like our government,
Okay.
with gunpowder. Yeah. And now we have a day, Guy Fawkes night. His name was Guy Fawkes.
Okay.
And you light fireworks. It's like a huge fireworks night.
Okay.
And we burn things.
Okay.
So like there would just be these giant bonfires everywhere. That's what it reminds me of. That's what that smell reminds me of. Which makes sense because it's gunpowder.
Yeah, interesting.
But it definitely reminds me of this particular day.
Are you supposed to burn anything in particular?
Oh no, you just burn like big, everyone will have like a big bonfire
Okay.
and burn. Some people use it as like a, burn my past. But
Yeah, like
most people
cleansing
just,
thing. Just like to
have
burn?
fireworks of the day. Everyone always gets together. It's like everyone celebrates it. It's one of my favorite days of the year in the UK.
Okay.
And it's like, it marks the turn of winter.
Oh.
So it's like fall's done, or we say autumn. Autumn's finished. It's time for Christmas, Guy Fawkes night. Listen, you go to a big park with all your friends and you sit on like a hill and just watch things burn.
Okay.
So, it's
Is this
great.
in celebration of him?
I don't really know what it is. I don't know why we're celebrating the guy that tried to blow up the parliament, but
Yeah,
I don't
the
know.
government.
yeah.
Interesting. It sounds fun. I actually wanted to talk to you about how you found your place in the world and also within like coffee.
Within coffee specific, well, I guess. So I'm relatively new to not really new. Relatively new to coffee, but I feel like it's kind of gone along with my life. Like coffee came into my life at a very pivotal moment. So I guess we start at the beginning. So I've run track since I was a kid. I started professionally when I was 15, but I started competing when I was 11. And then I was training before that. So like sports and specifically track has always been a huge part of my life. It's always been very regimented. Like my dad saw a lot of potential in me early on. He always wanted to be a professional sports person when he was a kid. So he was like, okay, perfect. Like, I got this kid. I think, she can make something. So he kind of guided me through like those early years of my career. And it was very like, track is life. Every weekend I would spend competing. Every day after school I would spend training. So like I didn't really get to explore myself outside of like sporting Jodie. I grew up that way. I experienced a lot of success when I was younger. So like 15 to 20, like I experienced a lot of success in sport, and that kind of like took over my life. And those are pivotal years in life, right? Like I was an awkward teenager. I was super like I'd never really been socialized because I'd always been doing this track thing. I didn't really have any sense of like community or like belonging to anything other than like I'm just really good at running. So like that was kind of that phase, and then I got hurt, or I experienced a lot of injuries. I experienced a lot of like failures basically, and those failures taught me everything I needed to know about myself. I love failing now, but at that time, like, it was like the scariest, worst thing I could possibly imagine. And it happens on such a like public scale in sport, right? Like, you lose a race and everybody's there to see it. There's the internet now. Like, I came up just as social media was coming up, so like I could search my name on Twitter and see everybody dragging me. Like, it feels like a whole country is against you or a whole country is for you, right? Like, success or failure. And on top of that, you're 19 trying to figure out who you are, what's going on. That's kind of how I found my place in the world. I moved to the US from London at 21, completely by myself. Like I just said, forget this.
Okay.
I had experienced a lot of things. There was a lot going on in my home life. I experienced like a major breakup. So I was like, forget it. I'm gonna move to the US, moved on my own. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna figure out who I am. I'm gonna figure out like what matters to me. I'm gonna explore myself outside of sport. So that's kind of what I did. And that's actually when I found coffee. So I moved into an apartment with this Australian girl. She's one of my closest friends now. Shout out Ella Nelson. And she kind of introduced me to like specialty coffee. It's huge in Australia, right? Like she was always looking for a good cup of coffee, and that's just kind of how like we initially bonded, and that's how I started exploring. I moved to Phoenix, so that's how I started exploring Phoenix through coffee shops, and that's how I started like exploring the world. Like I traveled so much, right, through track. So every city I went to, I would find the best coffee shops, and that's like how I found a sense of like community and belonging. I always used to hate traveling. It was uncomfortable. Like sport is quite like cliquey, so I would hate going down to the dining room. Like it's kind of like school, right? Like, oh, what table do I sit at? Like that's where the cool kids are. That's where and I was just like, forget this. I don't want to deal with that. So I found myself just taking myself to coffee shops. That's kind of how I would like mentally prepare for races. That's how I would, kind of find my place. So coffee shops, and I grew up going to coffee shops when I was a kid. My dad went to a coffee shop every morning. He would always take me to a coffee shop, so it felt like home. That's kind of how I started in coffee. I'm obsessive, so I got super into it, and then I started delving into like behind the scenes in coffee, right? I started noticing things like, okay, well, how come whenever I walk into a coffee shop, this is what everyone looks like? How come whenever I walk into a coffee shop, like the baristas always look the same, the people always look the same, and it was labeled as a certain thing, and I was just like, something in the back of my head was saying like, no, this doesn't feel right. It feels like a lot of other things. So I started delving into that side of things, and then coffee became my love, my place, my safe place, a place for home, a place for belonging, but also a place where I felt like kind of needed like dismantling. So I kind of got into that side of things too. But yeah, I think that's kind of how I found my place in the world, like just through exploring different things, allowing myself to be uncomfortable, allowing myself to just be open to new experiences, asking more questions. I was always scared to ask questions. And just meeting cool people. I've met the best people through coffee. So yeah.
That's really interesting, because I see, I guess what Crystal is alluding to, a lot of parallels on a much smaller scale. The whole not fitting in thing. The whole world has never been watching me, or whole country. So I can't imagine on that scale, kind of having to hear about yourself, or through that many people's perspective. But yeah, I spent my childhood and into adulthood even trying to just be perfect. So yeah, I learned not to ask too many questions. I learned not to act out. I learned to make myself very uncomfortable in order to fit in, even though I still felt like I was failing at that, like I never really fit in. And I've been a chronic job hopper. And yeah, so coffee's been like the first industry that I've tried the hardest to actually make it work. And kind of similarly, I felt like very isolated, but also saw this huge potential to find my people. Also, similarly, coffee pretty quickly became like my obsession, my special interest. Because the first thing that got me was my first coffee job. Like everyone seemed really comfortable. And I'd come from like the corporate office-y background. So like, it was nothing like people weren't just like okay with being themselves, right? It was a strict protocol to follow. So that's one of the things I thought was really cool about working at a coffee shop. Also the fact that it was very personally tied into my childhood. I didn't like coffee at the time, but my grandmother was a big coffee drinker, and visiting her like just always smelled like coffee. So like I just loved the smell of coffee. Coffee and books. Wherever there were coffee and books, loved it.
It's a great combination.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Tying that into like the science that I was interested in learning about coffee, it was so weird to like, I like the technical side of coffee. It's interesting. But when I'm talking to someone, white people, about coffee, and that's the only thing they can talk about, I'm like, I don't know how to talk to you at all, because there's no infusion of anything else, no connection you have.
I think that's actually the biggest thing that I've noticed, and it's something that, like, I'm trying to post-track. I want to get into coffee. I have lots of ideas. Like, my childhood dream was actually always to own a coffee shop.
Okay.
It's grown from that, but I've definitely noticed that amongst coffee culture, like, I don't even want to use the word tradition, amongst specialty coffee culture, I've definitely noticed that it's much more, it's not rooted in community or culture. It's rooted in technologies. It's exclusionary. Like I remember when I first walked into, I was in Berlin and I went to the Barn, which is like a super well-renowned coffee shop. And I went in there and like, I was, a year or two into my coffee journey. And I went in there and it was so intimidating. And this is for me as someone who knows something about coffee, right? So I walked in and I was like, oh, I just switched to black coffee. Before then I used to order like flat whites, a milky coffee. I was like, oh, can I have an Americano? And they said, no. I was like, oh, okay. And they were like, this is what you should get. And they offered me a pour over, which now that's the only way I really drink coffee. But at the time I was like, well, I really just want an Americano, guys. And then they offered me like, oh, okay, so do you want, the Colombian washed, the Ethiopian fermented, whatever. And I was like, but then they offered no further explanation than that. And I was like, I said something to sound smart, but like in that moment, I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, first of all, you won't even give me the drink that I want to drink. And second of all, like, you've given me these options, but you haven't offered any kind of entry point to me. Like, that was such an opportunity for them to create a connection and for them to create a moment of like learning for me and to like bring me in. But instead, I felt like it was an opportunity to like almost create a hierarchy. Like, oh, first of all, like, you don't even know what you're doing because you ordered an Americano. How dare you? And then second of all, like, do you even know about this? No, I don't know. teach me, like bring me in. And I found that that's every like Black person or person of color that I've interacted with in the coffee world. It's always so much more rooted in a cultural experience, a community experience, and an educational experience. Like, you'll go to a cupping and like I feel like I've come away and I've learned something. I feel like I've met people that have a genuine interest and genuinely want to share, and I feel like there's just more sharing. And I don't know whether that's because it's like we've been excluded, so it's now like a sharing of knowledge, or I just feel like it's a cultural thing too. Like I just think there's a lot more community like rooted in these spaces. But I definitely noticed that among specialty coffee, and that's definitely like one of the biggest things that I would like to change and dismantle is just like that feeling of walking into a coffee shop and it's intimidating. And that's what so many of my friends have told me too. Like, everyone that knows me, like, I've got into coffee in some capacity. Like, if you're my friend and you weren't into coffee before, you now at least own an AeroPress and you freshly grind coffee. But like every one of my Black friends in particular has always said like, but even my white friends too, like, it's just so scary walking into a specialty coffee shop. Like, no one explains anything to you. Like, you're just expected to know. Like, there's like a snobby, like, cliquey vibe to it. And like, that's always the thing that I hated the most, because I was like, like, coffee is about, the origins of coffee are about community. It's a community-based practice. It's traditionally sharing. It's traditionally a place where people come together. Even amongst specialty coffee, like coffee shops in the UK, in England, were a place where I think coffee shops actually got banned. So obviously coffee's always been an import, right? Say always, coffee's been an import since colonialism, all that fun stuff. So it was being imported to the UK, and people were creating specialty coffee, and but they were using the coffee shops as meeting points to overthrow the government. And then those are the people that went over to the US, right? And they started. So coffee shops got banned in the UK specifically because they were a place of community, a place where ideas were bred, a place where information was shared. And I just feel like that's got lost over the time. From, way back when it was, traditional Ethiopian, Eritrean, Yemeni? Yemen. I don't know what the like all of those traditional coffee experiences were always about rooted in community, rooted in, service, sharing. And I just feel like that's got so lost amongst specialty coffee. We're so focused on elevating, the sensory experience, and which is great. Like, you don't get me wrong. Like, I love a good coffee note.
Yeah.
But I think it's been, to your point, like, it's gone so far in that direction that those are the only discussions that are being had amongst, like, the specialty coffee industry. It's all technical. It's all about this side of coffee too, and it's never about, the origin side of coffee. How can we foster better relationships? How can we share better information? How can we close that gap between origin and consumer? I just feel like there's not a lot of interest there. There's a lot of interest in slapping a photo of a farmer on a coffee bag to make you feel good about yourself. Like, you're connecting, but there's not a lot of actual connection happening. It's really just moving the bar on, okay, we want this fermentation technique and we need this farmer to implement it. But, like, you haven't actually ever had any genuine connection with the people at origin for you to be moving the bar so far. I feel like that's just becoming, like, a bigger and bigger gap as time goes on. And, I just feel like specialty coffee's just got, like, lost. Like, the meaning of coffee and community has been, like, muddled somewhere along those lines. So I guess I can tell you about my... second to third transition. So I told you about my first to second. You know, I experienced success as a junior, and then I moved to the US, and I had a bit of a second wave. You know, I discovered a lot about myself as a person. I feel like I became a whole person. And that actually created some like turmoil within myself, in that I started to question, like, are you even running track for you? What are you even running for? What is success to you? And I just started asking myself a lot of questions along those lines, like, what do you want out of this? You know, before it was all just like, I want to win. Winning. And then I stopped winning and I started failing and I was like, oh, this sucks. Like, and sport can be very like all encompassing, and a lot of sports people go through like identity crisis, right? Like, it's your whole, most of us grow up doing it. It's your whole identity, and your whole identity is linked to being a successful person, kind of similar to what you were saying about perfectionism and feeling like you have to fit into a certain box. And there's like a certain way you're supposed to carry yourself within sport as well. Particularly within track, it's like a very like professional sport. And I would say actually the US does a really good job at this, in allowing athletes to be more expressive. But track has never really been like that. Like, there was like an unwritten rule that it's like, you have to answer the questions in a certain way. There's certain answers that people are looking for, and like, no one wants to hear about what's going on outside. It's just like, okay, how do you feel about the race? And you have to, you know, answer it. Oh, well, you know, there's some things I could improve, and yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
But like, honesty isn't really what people are looking for. And I was just kind of like, the more I got to know myself, the more I started to allow, kind of similar to what you were saying, allow myself to be I've always been a very expressive person, even as I was a kid. But it was always like some weird shit, like against the grain. Like, it was just never how anyone else my age was expressing themselves. So for a while, I like stifled that, and I was like, no, I'm just gonna fit in. I'm gonna, you know, wear what everyone else is wearing. I'm gonna follow the trends. And then it just kind of, I don't know, it forced me into a pigeonhole, and I was like, this isn't really me. So as I started learning more about myself, I started allowing myself to express myself in ways that I wanted to. I started being more playful with my appearance and things like that, and just allowing myself to really be me. And as I was doing that, I was kind of like, what are you in this sport for? Like, what do you want to... I started thinking about legacy, I guess. Like, what do you want to leave behind? What do you want to be, like, remembered for in this sport? It's not going to be winning, because, like, you know, that hasn't gone so well. So, like, what else can you get out of this? So I had to go back to the drawing board. Like, it took me a really long time. I was kind of in and out, and actually it was the pandemic that really gave me everything shut down, right? Like, for us, it was an Olympic year. We run in Olympic cycles. So it's like, I've been training for 4 years to get to this point. And then I found out on Twitter, like, oh, the Olympics has been postponed. And I was like, right. And that was it. Like, everything shut down. So I was in the US, completely on my own, like, away from home. I'd been struggling. Like, I've been in and out of contracts. Like, that's how we make our money, is through contracts. It was just like a very pivotal time where I was like, you need to make a decision here. There's no reason for you to really be here. Like, your friends and family aren't here. So I went back home for a year. I actually got stuck in England, but that's a whole other story. And I just really delved into, like, why are you doing this? And I realized that it was because I wanted to be able to use my voice. It sounds a little cliche, but I was starting to delve more into coffee, and I got more into... I've always been passionate about, like, giving young girls a voice and empowering young girls and women, and I was kind of delving more into that area and getting deeper into that, and I was like, I think this is why I'm here. I think this is how I can best utilize this ability that I've been given for some reason. I'm in rooms that I can actually make real impact in that I wouldn't be in if I wasn't a track athlete. I have opportunities that I wouldn't have if I wasn't a track athlete that I can really start like throwing my weight around. And I've always been someone that's been like scared to be controversial. Like I wanted to just be perfect. Like I don't stir anything up. I just want to be regular. Like, and it's just never been that for me. Like it's always been obvious that that's not what it is. So I was like, do you know what? I'm gonna just lean into that. So I started opening my mouth, and it was crazy. Like it just, that really became, the more I opened my mouth, it was uncomfortable at first, but like it started taking traction, and then I was like, this is what I'm really passionate about, and this is why I run track. Like, for sure, I still have ambitions. I still want to be Olympic champion. I still want to do all those things, but it's really like, it's a greater purpose for me now. And I think that's how I like fell in love with the sport, was just like, this is above me. Like I can really, let me make the most of these opportunities that I'm being given, like away from just a personal, like, oh cool, like a brand deal, like, oh cool, that's lovely. But also like, I can get into places that I can then start opening my mouth about things that have real impact. Like I have access to people that can really, that have real funds, that can really do something. And I can direct their attention to things that I know of that maybe they don't have knowledge of. So I think that was the biggest turning point for me. And I think it's similar for you with this podcast, and just like trying to be what you haven't seen, and trying to give a platform to people that you think deserve space.
Yeah. When I started like the podcast and started posting videos and stuff, I started getting, like, people started sending me coffee.
Yeah.
Which was, I love free coffee stuff.
Right. Who doesn't?
I love it. Yes. But like after a while I was like, this is still great, but I'm trying to get a job. Like, this is not making me money. There's like a handful of people that like, oh, I love your video. Can I send you coffee so that you can, in parentheses, post a review about it? And as soon as like it started to become like a tit for tat thing, like if someone specifically requested that I make a video about their, I post what I talk about what I like. Like if I don't like your coffee, I'm not going to promise to, say good things about it. But it was like, I was really struggling because, it didn't feel like anything substantial for me. Like I didn't feel like if my purpose was to raise other people's voices, I was like, I'm not doing these people justice because my platform's not big enough. And if like on the side of trying to just make a living, it's also not doing anything for me there. No one's giving me jobs. Even the people are like, oh, we like you, like we love you so much. Then like, hire me. And so it just felt like I was stuck. Like I felt like I was being kept in this very small like role, not internationally known, where I could like actually do some good like you do. I didn't feel like, I felt like everyone was just kind of lying to me and telling me, oh, you can do great things, or like, oh, we love you, but like it's not showing in any other way except coffee, which is great, but like I can't help people just because you give me coffee. I can't help myself by getting coffee. So there was definitely like a period where I was like, I've tried so hard to make this industry work for me because I I like it, and for various reasons, but I definitely wanted to like leave. I didn't want to, but I was like, I guess I have to, because I don't know how to make this work for me. But I don't remember what exactly it was that made me stick around. I think it's because I kept finding those individuals that were real that I could connect with because of coffee. So, I mean, here I am still talking about coffee, still trying to do stuff with coffee. But yeah, it's been touch and go for, a few times at least.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel that, but stick at it.
Okay.
Yeah. You should, for sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Stick at it, girl. Like, there's space. And I know it sounds silly, but I don't think there's any, platform too small. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of the times, I have this conversation a lot, where it's like, there's so much going on in the world, right? And people are like, I want to do something, but like, what can I do?
Yeah.
Like, what is my 1 cent gonna do? And I'm like, I get it. But at the same time, like, what if everyone said that? Nothing would ever happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It takes those 5, 6, 20 people or whatever that are willing to be like, no, I'm going to do something about it to create momentum. So I think, like, for you, even feeling like, maybe you don't feel like your platform's big enough, or it's not, like, the momentum isn't happening, but, like, it's there. Like, it takes people like you. You know what I mean? Like, it takes individuals to come together. That's where the numbers add up. You know what I mean? Like, if everyone brings their 500 people, now all of a sudden we have 10,000 people, and we can do something here. Like, there's momentum building, and I think, as you've said, like, it's the individuals, and each of those individuals probably feels the exact same as you. But, like, your perception of them is that they're doing something amazing, that you found a connection to them, and understand that that's reflected back on you too. People will be happy that they met you, and, like, that someone will have met you and been like, oh, that's the reason that I want to keep going in coffee. Like, what a cool girl. Like, I'm so glad. Like, it only takes one person to make a little, that's what I've always believed anyway, that to make a little change, I think, that's where community comes from. It's just individuals deciding that they want to do something collectively greater.
It's very inspirational. Thank you. That felt like a good stopping point to me. I like to end on, like, where someone else is hyping me up.
Yeah,
like, okay,
girl, snaps for you.
Jodie, I have something for you.
How exciting.
It's a coffee blend that I made for you, with you in mind. So, not having met you, really knowing you on a personal level, I took some guesses.
Okay.
I assume that as an Olympian, you have to have a lot of determination, perseverance, endurance.
Yeah.
I also associate Olympian with gold, of course. What you're striving
Still waiting for that one.
Doesn't matter. You're Olympian. That's gold in my book. So I have a lot of notes of what I just call gold in this. So, like, there's honeydew, some lemon, some citrus. Some notes of guava, pineapple, a little tropical. There's also some Brazilian chocolate elements to kind of symbolize the endurance.
Yeah, and my first Olympics was Rio.
Hey,
there you go.
Perfect. So yeah, so this isn't quite that deeper sweetness that, like, we were talking about. It has a lot of bright notes.
Okay.
Which I also associate with, like, the sun.
Yeah.
So, yes,
Thank
that's
you
for
so
you.
Much.
You're
How exciting.
welcome. I really want to try coffee made by you. So it can be that or it can be something else. It doesn't matter. But
Shall we brew?
we shall.
Okay.
Let's.
Hey, waiting to get right, only leave you left behind. Up goes the early bird soaring down. Scrounge around for whatever worms might be obtainable. Never knew who flew about theirs first. So what's available, not a lot it seems. What you gonna do for it? Anything out means? Type of dedication you gotta have as you're blazing the path. Never know who trailing you, hoping to get familiar with the ways of the things that we do. Ball hard and hold everyone who here accountable. Speaking up, stack it up till it's high as the stars in the skies. Always told to shine bright. You see it in my eyes. Ooh, we found high among the lows. Yeah. Ain't no stopping it, so we don't go. There's no slowing down, no, not right now. Cause the ways of the things that we do. Ball hard and hold everyone who here accountable. Speaking up, stack it up till it's high as the stars in the skies. Always told to shine bright.
So I collect cups.
I've been starting with the one looking right.
I feel like it elevates the experience. Having a cute little cup to drink out of. So. Bon appetit. Oh, let's try your blend. Do you have a cup preference?
One of these.
The burgundy. You want this one?
Yes.
One of my closest friends from home made this.
Really?
Yeah, it's got her initials at the bottom, so she made me a little coffee cup.
That is very cute.
Cute. And she made, this is why it's this color.
Ah, okay.
Okay, so it's a very special cup.
Thank you. We'll treat it as such.
I can definitely get the chocolate.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is really good.
It is. I mean, thank you. This is the first blend I've made that's anything like this, really.
Okay.
Like bright and like goldy with tropical kind of.
This is really
Stuff.
nice. It's very balanced. This would be a great breakfast first cup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you brewed this quite well.
Thank you. I try. I feel like I used to be super technical with it, and now I think I've brewed so many times I just go off of my hands just do things. I go off of intuition.
Yeah.
Times are roughly right. The weights are roughly right.
Yeah.
You know.
I feel like that's another thing that's gotten lost in the whole, along with community and coffee being lost. Like, there's so many spaces I go to that also are not community, grounding focused or anything like that. They also just only technical. I've seen people get angry when they don't have the exact right tools around them. It's ridiculous. You can make coffee any kind of way.
I like to brew intuitively. It's don't get me wrong, there's times when I'm like, no, I'm gonna make this the perfect cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Usually when I'm just making one cup in my little sensory cup, I'll make it scientifically. But most times it's just, like I said, it's muscle memory now too. I know what I'm doing. But also, it doesn't have to be so regimented. I like to just flow. Usually have a good playlist going.
Okay.
I'm vibing.
Yeah. I like
Get a little dance in between. It's a spiritual experience to me.
Yeah.
I have a kitchen speaker specifically for this exact
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
for that exact reason. So,
Very nice.
cheers.
Cheers. Tink.
Coffee?
And then please cut so we can be normal now. Going into the season, I really wanted to take a look at the coffee world through the eyes of some of the coffee people that I really admire. Learning a few things that were a bit unexpected. I came into this season really with very few expectations, just wanting to converse and, like I said, see things through their eyes. What I learned from John in episode 1, the master of metaphors, was that change happens at the speed of trust. I learned that building those real connections and forming real trust is key to forming any kind of community or building the team that you want. In episode 2 with Kay, the color alchemist, we delved a little bit further into our personal lives. I talked about how growing up, I didn't see a lot of Black faces, and it left this deep loneliness that I didn't really know where it came from. And coffee, funny enough, was the bridge that connected me back to my roots. In episode 3 with Marissa, the community architect, we talked about how change starts with the communities that you build, the communities you're in, and that can really only start with you as an individual. So that has tied in to my personal growth a lot this season. By focusing on myself and who I am, I have been able to better create the community that I've been searching for in coffee and in general. The things that I learned from my guests as I talked through them and talked out some of my own thoughts on coffee and community and the industry at large. So I have plans on creating a new annual event for Black folks and other folks of color in coffee, from coffee professionals to enthusiasts, just to create a space where we all can feel comfortable. One that takes all of our voices into account, one where a spotlight is shined on voices that know a lot about both coffee and themselves and community, but aren't often heard or given a chance to be heard.